9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And we are live again with the fifth episode of Polybius, this project we created together with Hospitality Net, where we do talk about the possible application of the metaverse and Web3 in the hospitality space. Thank you so much for tuning in as avatars or in 2D, wherever you're watching this. Let's go straight into it. We got some amazing people today that I want to introduce, and then we will start talking about the topic of today, that is marketing for Generation Alpha. So if you don't know what Generation Alpha is, you will learn that, and we'll tell you a little more about how to market your property in the metaverse without necessarily having to build something in the metaverse. So of course we got maybe for the third time in a row, Michael Cohen. Michael, thank you so much for being with us today. And then we got Andrew Key, and then Web3 researcher, and Sergio Schemel, metaverse creator. We're trying to get back online. He's having some issues with the connection, but we hope we'll be able to have him on board pretty soon. And then I want to say a big thank you to one of my favorite writers in the metaverse space, and I know I'm going to butcher your name, so I'm very sorry for that. But this is Mike von Reiminov. I tried my best, Mark. Just you need to give me that.
Very
okay?
well. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Okay. So thank you so much. And Mark is again, you can see in the middle of the screen this book that is called Step into the Metaverse. It's published by Willie. And I always say that it's very hard to find something interesting to read about the metaverse, especially on paper. But I always had a soft spot for this one. So if you wanna know more about the metaverse without the hype and with some possible business application, just make sure that you check this out. Jill and Davey are going to share the link of the book directly on Amazon. And Mark, I know you got another book out now, right? I got a copy just the other day.
Yes, that's correct. It's called Future Visions, and it's was written in 1 week together with ChatGPT, just when ChatGPT had come out. So I think I was the first in the world to write a book with ChatGPT, and it's about how future technologies will change our society.
How, like, if you should like give me an estimate, how much was you and how much was ChatGPT?
So the way the process worked is that I asked ChatGPT which technologies are going to define the future. It came up with a list of technologies. I added my own technologies to that list. And then for each technology, I asked which questions do I need to ask, and then I input those questions into the book, into ChatGPT, and that's how I had a dialogue with ChatGPT, and I copied the text literally into the book. So I didn't make any changes. All I did was restructure the sentences or the paragraphs, and to make sure that there was no factual errors in there, which ChatGPT is known to do sometimes. And then I edited the book with Grammarly. When I was finished, I asked ChatGPT, now write me a title, now write me a subtitle. Then I asked it to write me a description of the cover, and that description of the cover I used as a prompt for Stable Diffusion to create me the cover design. And then I said, well, now write me a review, and it wrote me a raving review about how good the book was.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Okay, well, actually, the process is very similar to what I use when I have to write like a short articles. I always use like a combination. I used to use Writer before that. Now, of course, I moved to ChatGPT and Grammarly. So it's an interesting experiment. I've read some AI generated books in the past, They were not great. So again, it's on my to read list, and this will be the next. Okay, so
Very
again,
good.
Mark,
Yeah,
thank you so much for taking the time.
my pleasure. It's great to be here. You're doing great work.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. We try. Okay, let's go straight into that. And Mark, if it's fine, I will start directly with you. So we're trying to understand how we can market for a whole new generation or possible travelers. And what I always say, and I don't know if you agree with me, is that to a certain extent, metaverse native, uh, Gen Alpha or crypto native, call them as you like. Uh, they cannot really book today because of their age, but they can already influence the choice of a destination or a property for their parents. And I see it myself. I got a kid now, and I see that the way I book my vacation changed dramatically after that. But it looks like we're not even looking when it comes to the hospitality space. It looks like we're not even looking at that demographic. So my first question for you would be, do you think we got a missed opportunity there?
Well, that's a good question, but I think very few industries at the moment understand how to approach Gen Alpha. First of all, because it's a brand new generation, it's only they're only turning about 11, 12 now, the oldest. So it's a brand new generation, and they have such a different approach to life that's than any other generation so far, and I think that is difficult to grasp for many. You can call them Gen Alpha, Gen Crypto. I actually like the term Gen AI, which I heard the other day. I think that this generation is a lot more than Gen Z. Born into a world where digital technologies are such an important play such an important role in our lives that from a very very young age they already understand how this stuff works. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and she knows perfectly well how FaceTime works when I when I use it, or how the iPad works, which is remarkable. And I think um, having a generation that is so digital native, but mind you, not necessarily digitally literate, is, I
Mm.
think, interesting and challenging for many industries, not only the hospitality industry. I don't think the hospitality industry should be too harsh on itself in this regard. But of course, yeah, they should understand how the next generations, what they value, and I think they will value different things than you and I might value.
Well, that's an interesting distinction you do between the fact that they're digital natives and the level of literacy that they do have when it comes to technology. And I do have a very unpopular opinion when it comes to that. And I say that a lot of the fault uh, is uh, is uh, uh, is the graphic interface. And let me explain you that. When I was a kid, and I was born in '79. But when I was a kid, if you wanted to do something on a computer, you actually had to do something on a, like write a prompt or write a basic line of code, even to do something very simple like just print something. And my first experience was with Commodore 64 Basic. So you kind of knew that I'm putting something in and I'm getting something out in return. For you, that was how technology used to work. And now, and that is why I do agree with you that probably the best way to call them is Gen AI. It's like an afterthought for them. They they use a ton of technology, but they do not necessarily understand the technology. Do you think this is a fair statement?
Absolutely, and I think that's very very problematic because I think a lot of this for all of this, yeah, Gen Alpha technology is a natural part of how the world works, but that doesn't mean that they know how to behave in this digital space, how to really use this digital technology, how to avoid the dangers, and how to make use of the benefits. So I think I have to say it does not only apply to Gen Alpha. it also applies to Gen Z and all the other generations. So I think this is sort of a societal problem, as that we have sort of sleepwalked into this digital age, and we've never really trained ourselves or educated ourselves on how to use digital technologies in a responsible manner. And I think, with the metaverse, with the immersive internet coming, where we had 100 times more data, we have a lot. We move from being on the to make a conscious decision to go on the internet to be immersed in the internet. I think that's very, very problematic, and I think something needs to be done about that. And because otherwise, I think we'll have a bit of a few challenges in the years ahead of us.
Okay, that's that's a good angle. Okay, thank you so much, Mark. Andrew, let me ask you something similar. Do you think like we got a missed opportunity to let's go with Gen AI, Mark. Do you think we got a missed opportunity with Gen AI, especially when it comes to the travel space? Do you think we are overlooking this demographic in a way?
I think I want to take a step further back from that and even say the general direction that the metaverse is going in isn't really a metaverse. It's the overlap between your digital and physical identity, right? And for Gen AI, this digital identity is going to be much more important than any previous generations. It's important to me. I'm a millennial, right? And it's even more important to Gen Z, and it's going to be utmost importance to Gen AI. And what this means for specifically, for hospitality industry, amongst everybody else, is we have to cater to these digital identities, right? In unique and bespoke ways that didn't exist before. And it's our job, right, as sort of builders of experience, to reduce the amount of time from intention and outcome to zero. So I think that the opportunity here is going to come up in much more sort of niche experiences, because these people, they have a higher frame rate. They have access to more information, more opportunity. So unless you're going to race to the bottom and be a commodity hospitality experience, you have to come up with something that's like for a specific user, and you can reach those users now too because of digital marketing. So that's kind of where I see things headed.
If I can just jump into that, because there was a research the other day, a couple of weeks ago, which stated that I think it was targeted at Gen Z, but I think Gen Z that 50% of Gen Z think that their digital identity is as or more important than their physical identity. That's for Gen Z. So now you can imagine how Gen Alpha or Gen AI will think about that. So they have a completely different perspective, where their digital identity is as or more important than their physical identity. That's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, Mark, and I know you quote, if I can add something to that, Andrew, because you quote a philosopher that I love in your book, and that's David Chalmers. And I had the privilege to talk to him a couple of times, and it's exactly what he's basically saying. It's a look in a few generations, and this is something that's already happening now. The boundaries between what we perceive as physical and virtual or augmented will be so indistinguishable that we will not even waste time on trying to divide the two. And I think that this is exactly where we can have a lot of interesting marketing opportunities, because this generation doesn't have a clear analog distinction as we do on what is real for them, and this could be their identity or a word or an experience, and what is virtual. So Andrew, would you agree with that? And how, if you do, how would you think we could use it at our advantage?
See, that's the thing. It's easy to say these things, but when it comes down to like actual physical experiences, it's hard to deliver given the standards for, I'm using air quotes, what the metaverse is right now. How do you have, for example, using a fashion example, because I do have a little bit of a background, it's like, how can you wear this experience? How can you showcase this experience on your digital identity that's not clunky? While I really do appreciate this space that we're in right now, this virtual space, but there's still these friction points that I don't think will fly with Gen AI, right? So the only way that we're going to be able to really capitalize on this in the hospitality industry and beyond is by having a very frictionless experience that adds value to their digital identity.
Okay, this is a question that I get all the time, because do you think, because a lot of my clients, for example, they say the problem is mainly the level of realism that we do have in most virtual worlds today. And I can understand that. Like, if you want to book a room, you want to see the real thing, and you want to see something that is realistic, not necessarily very immersive, at least now, but you want to see something that is realistic, right? And I completely get that. But I also get the fact that, imagine that we got this new generation that is used to a certain design, in a way, a certain visual identity that is, very Minecrafty, very Robloxy. And so to a certain extent, they're used to like an 8-bit kind of experience. Do you think, and this, I don't have an answer for that, so I'm really asking you that. Do you think that we really will be able to do something interesting hospitality-wise in the metaverse only when we reach a good level of realism? Or do you think that there is something we can do in the meantime, Andrew?
I think there are plenty of things we can do in the interim. For example, a project that my brother worked on or is working on possibly is they're developing a mall out here in Hong Kong, and they want to bring people into the mall because it's a little bit out there. And this is a physical and digital identity sort of thing here. Is if you come in and you scan this QR code, it's built on the old Kai Tak Airport landing strip. So if you bring up your cell phone, because everybody's got this mobile device, so I feel like that's got to be the at least for now the standard playing field leveler. You go into the mall and you scan this thing, and you can hold your phone up, and it's like this AR experience where you can see where the planes used to land, and it's like this historical component to it, and there's a time-based feature to it as well to drive more foot traffic into the mall. So this is one of the ways that it doesn't need to be the sharpest, cleanest thing ever, and people will still do it and appreciate it because there's like some history there, there's some heritage, there's some legacy. So if you can combine some of these different flavors, I don't think it needs to be the cleanest experience. But that being said, I mean, the new Unreal Engine looks amazing. Some of the things going on, Mark, you're talking about using Stable Diffusion. I actually, I also do music, and I just put together a music video using Stable Diffusion form. And some of the things that you can get with this generative work is just fantastic. So I do think we're right at the cusp for having high definition experiences, but I don't think that's required if you get creative with it.
Yeah, makes sense. So Andrew, after the show, just give me a link with the video. We will put it in the room, and we will show it in the room for a little while, okay? But let me go to Sergio. Sergio, so that's an interesting angle because basically, for what I understood, what Andrew was saying is that with a mix of not necessarily only VR, but also AR and a more creative way of use of VR, we can actually do something in this transition period. Let's call it like Web 2.5. I think Luca likes to call it like that. So do you think that we shouldn't aim for perfection when it comes to the metaverse in the hospitality space today, but we can be a little more, like at the very beginning of the internet, if you think about it, we can be a little more creative, and maybe we do stuff that is a little more unconventional now that we don't have like the perfect technological means to recreate a perfect digital copy of what we have in real life. Sergio, what's your take on that?
Yeah, no, 100%. I do agree that realism, especially with the younger generation, is not something that we should really aim for. Also because we have to face technical problems, so it's difficult to implement. And yeah, actually, I think Generation Alpha, I have my nephew is 2010, so it's on the border, and yeah, I can see definitely that he's not really looking for realism or a digital twin. To be honest, yeah, he's looking for having fun and play. For sure, when he's engaged with brands that resonate with him, then for sure I can see that they have an impact, especially if, I don't know, they show experiences for video games or for brands that he already knew. So for sure, I think creativity is very important. But yeah, the main thing I think is listening to them and really see what they do in those platforms. So the first thing I would say is to just be there, have presence, and speak with them.
Okay, but it's pretty much what happened with social media in the mid 2000s, basically.
Yeah, indeed, it did. It's I would say companies shouldn't be seen as someone who del- deliver a product or sell a product. It's just someone who connects with the audience, and I think we shouldn't underestimate, let's say, their capacity to understand that it's actually not about being virtual or real, but it's actually about being digital or physical, that are both real. This aspect is very well understood, I think, in the younger generations at the moment.
The fact is that I don't think it's very well understood by a lot of people working in a very physical industry like ours, and we tend, because that's really the narrative and the skepticism I got all the time. It's all about that. You cannot replicate what we do in the physical world in the metaverse. And my 2 cents is that we're not even trying to do that. And this is pretty much what you guys are all saying. Matt, I don't know if your connectivity issues are gone now. So can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly. Great. So how do you think today, like, let's say we got a hotel listening to us and they want to start doing something in the metaverse, and this doesn't mean that they need to sell a key to start doing something, and they want to take like a more I would say low level approach, but they still want to create some kind of presence in the metaverse, especially trying to get and talk and open a discussion with this demographic. What would be your advice?
I think it's really important what you guys just discussed. It's really about the transition phase and this, let's say, 2.5 or something, and really like not seeing it as a way to replace or create something similar you have in physical world in the metaverse. Say, you want to really like connect these two worlds together. And what I really like that metaverse or Web3 in general offers now is really like working with the data and building the loyalty programs on it and connecting it together. So really having a way how to interact with your potential clients or people that already like your brand, and talk to them in the metaverse space. Maybe create some interactive experience to them. Show them how your hotel looks like, how your restaurant looks like, and find a way how to make it more engaging. And really like, yeah, I think what is important that, for example, Roblox is still really kind of dominating the Web2 metaverse space. And it's like a 2/3 of American kids between 8 to 12 years, I think, are playing Roblox. And that's really like interesting because, it's like 40 million daily players and they don't care about the graphics, and that it's not really like the very beautiful or not even so much like 3D, but still they play it and they have a lot of use cases there that they're really enjoying. So I would try to think of it in this way and try to find how the person can really interact with my brand or my product in a very interesting way, and maybe have some benefit from it in the real world as well. So that's going back to the loyalty programs.
Well, that's exactly my take. The language is different, and I think there is an aesthetics there that we're not seeing in the hospitality space because we're just thinking in terms of realism. But again, you made some example, like think about, I don't know, Vans or Nike, or like, I used to be a skater when I was young, and I took a look at Tony Hawk in Roblox. That's pretty interesting, but it does come with a more Roblox aesthetics that is very far from realism. So, Mark, I want to go back to you because I think this could be an interesting angle. Do you think that to a certain extent we can actually use a non-realistic metaverse, more gaming oriented, to sell something that usually is perceived as more high touch, as hotels or even destinations?
Well, I think you certainly can. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. I think if you want to build a metaverse for millennials, I don't think you should go down that route. But if you want to target the kids of the millennials, then it might very well work to create I don't know, a Marriott Roblox land or something like that, where they can have an experience on Roblox, and because the kids see Roblox, experience with Roblox, and when the parents talk about going on holiday, they will say, I want to go to Marriott. So from that perspective, I think that there's definitely a possibility for hotel brands to use the platforms that Generation Alpha is using. But it very much depends on what your objective is as your organization. Now, if you want to see it as a communications perspective, as a marketing tool to create brand awareness with the kids of the ones of the people who will stay with you, I think it's something that's definitely interesting to do, because it will help you reach out to a market that you might not be able to reach, and through that might be you can reach the parents who will eventually pay for it. So I think I haven't seen any hotel brands to my knowledge in this space, but please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it would be a great opportunity for some of the hotel brands to build their Roblox worlds, to be present in the various platforms where Gen Alpha is residing.
So let me give you my 2 cents on that, because there are a few examples of hotels that are trying to do something in the metaverse in terms of digital twinning. Okay, but I think that the main problem is that it's a mentality problem. Because what they're trying to do is they're basically trying to replicate the physical experience in the metaverse. Yeah. And I don't think that this is the right approach to go, because for that, a virtual tour will be, at least in my opinion, it will be immersive enough and to make you think if you want to book a room or not. But what I think that we're not doing, and again, this is just pure speculation, but I agree with you that I've never seen a Roblox, a good hospitality project on Roblox, for example. And it's crazy to me what you get 45 million daily users, is to create something that is not necessarily a copy of the physical world, but something that can be an extension and a fun extension of the physical world, and use it as a marketing tool to market these people. Is it what you were trying to say, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a problem that many brands face who want to do something in the metaverse, is that they will create the same thing. They will recreate the same thing as they have in the physical world. And I think a good example is the I think it's called the A3X store by I forgot which company it was in New York, which is it's a really cool company, a really cool concept store in New York. But what they've done then is that they have recreated it, exactly as a replica in the virtual world. That just doesn't make sense to me, because you had the laws of physics don't apply in the digital world. So be creative, go crazy and let your imagination flow. And I think that's really, really important. And I think a lot of brands will have to learn. I don't think see grasp the opportunity yet of what the metaverse has to offer. Some companies do. Nike, the Nike Land is hugely successful. But I think that's something that hotel brands should definitely explore, and they should not. I completely agree with you, Simon. Not replicate their physical hotel with a pool and some hotel rooms and a restaurant in the virtual world.
That's exactly my point, because the Nike Land on Roblox is extremely successful because it's fun and because there's no way I can do that kind of stuff in the real world, in a real Nike shop. And I think this is the genius idea, even though I do understand that to a certain extent, Nike or Vans, they can talk directly to that demographic because, of course, they will need sneakers at some point, right? And it's not like buying a pair of Nike, as expensive as it can be, will never get the level of booking a 5-star luxury hotel. I do understand that, so I'm sure there is a higher short-term return investment when buying something on Roblox for a sneaker company, of course. But yet, I think that they got it right, because what they are trying to do is, what they accomplished was to create something that was not possible in real life, in the physical space, and use it as an extension of their marketing strategy, not as a replacement of the marketing strategy. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think you look, if same with Nike is it's not that they stopped doing all their other work. It's the whole idea about marketing in the metaverse is to reach out to your target group where they are. And if your target group is on Roblox, be on Roblox. If your target group is on Facebook, be on Facebook. And if they are on both, be on both. And I think that's sort of what they should focus on.
Can I add one thing on this?
Sure, totally. In the meantime, Mark, I just put the ChatGPT book here as well, huh? So it's pretty
perfect.
It's
Thank you.
next to Mark. I haven't read that, so I don't know. I can suggest it only after I did read it, but I only read the reference so far. Go on.
Just wanted to say that building let's say branded spaces in virtual reality or application, for sure is not the only initiative they can implement. Also because I would say the world that Nike built, it was very expensive. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they released the top 10 words in Roblox, and indeed they are, I would say, 6 figures words. So for sure, it's very creative, it's very impactful. However, I would say for the average business to look at maybe smaller initiatives that they can put a foot in. So not necessarily building a virtual spaces or building anything, actually. One example that I can give is maybe a partnership or supporting a project, or even just putting little billboard with something. So it has to be meaningful, and allows to connect with the audience.
Okay, Sergio, I want you to expand this, because this is interesting, and it's probably like a practical thing for the viewers. So when you say that you can actually do something in the metaverse without having to commit in building something in the metaverse, give me like 2-3 examples of something you saw that you liked, or just something that you think it could be a great way to do that.
So I think the easiest way, maybe if you want to put a manifesto or your billboard, then you can put in a smart way. So you can use the physical presence, let's say, of the users, as well as if the platform allows. So some KPI, some statistics, if the users have seen that image or the content that you put in a space that is already there. So that's I would say the first idea, the cheapest idea I can think of.
Look, I never look.
There are,
Let me give you a crazy idea, okay? For
yeah,
example, I'm not very into football, but you know, like if you see a video game such as FIFA, for example, you know, it got millions of players. Why wouldn't you want to advertise with a banner, for example, in FIFA for a destination, for example? So let's say you're playing in a stadium in like I don't know. I lived in Paris for a long time, so you're playing at Paris Saint-Germain stadium, right? And you know that that banner is dynamic, so it's an advertisement that you can actually set up based on the interest of that user. So would that be like a first approach to the metaverse, even though in a more like light version, where let's say you're playing in France and I do put a banner promoting the destination or promoting the flight, then you can like the first reaction could be, you know, I really would like to visit this stadium in real life. And then you got like the banner just telling you that you can actually do it. And there's a promotion for gamers for it. Do you think this could be like a fitting example, or I'm just being too crazy with that?
no, no, definitely. I actually can tell you more about this because I'm working with a company on Decentraland to look at some identification of the user. So the example you said, you have the stadium, maybe you like or you have shown interested to go to Paris. I shown interested to go to Helsinki. I will see the Helsinki hotel destination or whatever in that billboard, and you will see Paris. But we will standing at the same time and the same place, but you will see something different than me. So that's also potential, and it's very cheap actually.
Well, because it's like, look, I always say when you do Google Ads, for example, right? That is like together with meta search ads, it's basically what we do most when we do digital advertisement for hotels. You're not building on Google. You're just using Google as a tool to show your advertisement in Google. To me, right now, especially for businesses that they don't have the budget or they don't want to risk it now, or they're not fully convinced, they cannot see the possible application. This could be a great way to start, you know, and to actually advertise in a metaverse that already exists without having to commit in building something. So, Matt, let me go back to you. It's been a while. Do you think this could be like a feasible option for hotels, or do you envision that in the future the only way to do metaverse marketing for hospitality is to go just with digital twins?
I definitely think digital twins are not really the way to do it right, at least now. But also, I don't think that simple like banners or really like virtual billboards in the metaverse will be something so interesting. I really think like two things. First is what you guys discussed with Mark, and I think that's really like super important to realize what I want to achieve with that, and then what's the target user in the metaverse, because as we discussed, Roblox is mainly like a smaller audience maybe, so it might be interesting to engage with them and build more like the theme parks to show the brand somehow. But then again, a different audience will be present in Sandbox or Decentraland. I think that's like the first part to it. And the second is that really, to me, the biggest advantage of metaverse is that first, it's eliminating the geo barriers. So you can show something to anyone around the world, and that can be leveraged, for example, for the conferences. We can sit here and like 5 people, it looks pretty much like we are in the room, but we are not, right? We are scattered across the globe. But the metaverse made it happen that we can be in one room, and that's just amazing. And the second thing is, yeah, the barriers of, let's say, the physical world, that in metaverse you can build anything, and you can really like play with the stuff that you want to show to the users. I think that these two will be really important for the brands that will be really more visible in the metaverse, that they will master this and create really some interesting experience that the people will really enjoy. Does it make sense?
Well, totally. Let me add something to that. I'm going back to Mark because what you said something that really resonated with me. I said, look, with the metaverse, what we're doing now basically with 5 people in a room, and we're doing this, okay? But this is the medium. But I also think that, a philosophy teacher back when I was young used to say that technology is never neutral, okay? Technology does change in a way the way you interact with the world. And I think that the cool thing about it and the marketing opportunities here is not only now we got another medium, because it's not like just having like a better version of Zoom or Google Meets, but we're having something that can be on top of what we're already doing. So because what we're doing now is very meta, actually, in the Greek sense of the word, because we're talking about the metaverse in a metaverse because of the metaverse. And I think this is probably what we're not getting. Mark, did I get too meta with that?
Look, I think if we I think it's important to be aware of that. The metaverse is still very early days, and I think that's for everyone who wants to do something with the metaverse. It's important to be aware of. And yes, we're talking in the metaverse about the metaverse, but to what extent is this really the metaverse? You can also argue that a Zoom call is the metaverse, or you could say this is not the metaverse because it's not accessible because it's not hyper realistic experience, whatever. So there are all kinds of different definitions related to that. But regardless, I think that the technology is evolving, and as a brand, you have to remain up to date. You have to understand what's happening, and you have to embrace these new technologies, because the world is changing faster than ever before. And if you're not paying attention to these new technologies, if you're not experimenting with these technologies, I think you'll have a problem in the long run.
Well, let me tell you something, because again, this is coming from Antonio Picozzi, CEO of a company doing decentralized bookings for hotels, right? And he basically said that when you're trying to do something metaverse marketing wise, it's not only about marketing, but it's about innovating your value proposition. So would you agree with the fact that at this stage it's not only about the return investment, or at least it's not only about the return investment in this moment, but it's more about trying to catch up with innovation, catch up with new medium of communication and so forth, not unlike it happened billions of times before with different technologies. Would you agree with the statement or not?
I completely agree with that, because I think it's the metaverse. In order to understand the metaverse, you have to immerse yourself into it. And that's the same thing with Web 1 and with social media, with mobile web. The hospitality industry is generally a rather conservative industry, and uses the new technologies last. And I think with these kind of technologies, it's important to be open-minded and to start exploring them today. Yes, technology, the metaverse might look like a toy at the moment, and to quote Leigh Christensen, because it's a new thing, but that will evolve. And if you don't understand today how this disruptive technology is going to affect your brand, I think you'll be left behind 2-3 years from now, when your competitors have been doing that, and therefore are on the bandwagon, who's moving at exponential pace. So I think it's really important to be aware of that, and to not forget that the world is changing, and you need to change with it.
Yeah, and there's another quote from the viewpoint that we published yesterday, and this is coming from another Italian. We got too many Italians on this thing anyway. And he said, as we move into the next decade, Web 2 and Web 3 will coexist for a while. And this transitional phase can be called Web 2.5 and will be marked by the use of both technologies. So let me go back to Andy for a second. Andy, do you agree with the fact that we're now in a transition phase? It's not necessarily Web 3 yet, but it's no longer only Web 2. Do you agree with Luca?
Oh yeah. My brother's been screaming about Web 2.5 to me for a while. I mean, I think really what it is, it should be, people shouldn't notice that it's Web 3, right? If they notice that it is this thing and you're putting it in front of everything, like, oh, hey, it's an NFT project. No. It should just be more secure. It should just be better than what exists right now. So I do think that part of this transition will be
and that
away from some of the more gimmicky things and into like actual, like, real value. It's a decentralized ledger. It's more secure. You have like autonomy and also just to take one step back, just you remind me about the marketing component. If we're looking at Web3 users and the metaverse is like another marketing channel, going back to the omni channel, you have to be present in all these places. It's like this super omni channel. Something really important about this is users' digital identity becomes this new version of a marketing pixel. It's not this anonymized thing that disappears after 30 days. And I know there's like a dark side to this as well, but you're putting that aside, being sort of objective from a marketing standpoint. Now we have this level of fidelity for user behavior, especially if we can tie that with off-chain behavior like social media, that really tells a complete story about these individuals. So I do suspect that people's spending habits are going to become generally a bit more frugal. So it's on us to optimize our decisions, who we're targeting and how we're targeting these people. So if you have this more complete picture of these individuals, you have some real quality data. You can go and like, for example, there's this supply chain a guy, Marshall Fisher, who's a professor at Wharton, and they've been using social media to reduce the amount of inventory fulfillment loss by 37% just by using predictive analysis and media. Well, you can do so much more with this. So maybe it's not about getting more customers, right? It's about optimizing and making sure that the ones that you have are the best quality possible. I do think the metaverse omni-channel perspective, and as we start to shift into Web3, we'll start to see a lot more of this.
Well, you get a point, and like in the hospitality space, for example, we get a friend that's on the community, and she was on a few of these episodes, and she's been doing metaverse training for housekeepers for a long time now. And of course, you do not have a direct return on investment in that, but it does help you streamline your operations, for example. You're totally right. I think that probably the main, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the main problem we do have today, especially for industries not coming from Web3 or crypto or metaverse, is finding the right KPIs. Because it's not only about I create something on the metaverse so I make more money, but it's I create something in the metaverse to solve a possible problem that is not necessarily just a revenue problem. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's funny because on my way home this evening, I took the MTR, which is the subway system we have here in Hong Kong. And as the train took off, I saw an advertisement, and they're like, "Oh, we have an MTR station in the Sandbox." And to me, I'm like, "What is your objective with this advertisement? And then what is your objective with having this place in the Sandbox? What are you supposed to do there?" So I do think there needs to be like a clear purpose for what you're trying. Like you said, you have to have a clear purpose, clear KPIs, and you have to know what you're at least trying to aim for. I feel like a lot of people are just getting in to get in, and that is also important. If you don't know what to do, at least get some skin in the game so you get an idea, and if you get burned. But this is a bit like I think it's to behoove us more and more to come into this like very objective oriented.
It's cool. It's funny. It's like the example you just made. It's like sending a fax, telling that you got a website actually.
Yeah.
And this is Adam said something interesting, Jolonsky, and it's been very active for us. And he said that it's not exactly this. He said it's not just the medium, but the message you put behind it. And let me go to Sergio for that. Sergio, do you think that a lot of, and I have my own opinion, it's very unpopular, but I have my strong opinion on that. But do you think that a lot of these projects that we're seeing in the hospitality space are just projects without a real roadmap, without a real strategy? It's just they doing it because they need to be there, but it's not exactly clear what they want to solve with that. And the problem with that is, and I agree with Andy to a certain extent, that at least it will bring you there and will just start familiarizing with the metaverse. But the boomerang effect here could be that you come into the metaverse with like crazy high expectations. These expectations are not met, and then you're stuck with like a clunky Second Life kind of experience, and you don't really know what to do with that. And this is like, honest to God, this is a conversation that I had with a hotelier yesterday. I was talking at an event in Milan, and this guy talked to me and said, "Look, we created a space in the metaverse." I said, "Yeah, that's great. And what you're doing with that?" And he said, "Look, I don't know." So, Sergio, do you think that there is a lack of guidance and of strategy behind a lot of these new metaverse projects?
Yes, indeed. I think so. I'm glad I'm responding to this point because I wanted to, it's connected to what I said before about the billboard, So if you put just a billboard and that's it, then no one is going to look at it, no one is going to do anything essentially. And yeah, you can put maybe a call to action or something like this. You can be a little bit smarter. But in the end, what I think it's most important is your brand supporting a message? Is your brand resonating, or that experience is resonating with your audience? So what it means, I think, in the metaverse is you really need to understand and be there, not with something that you just put there, but like yourself physically, or I would say physically, but with your presence digitally, but in that space. So yeah, I think you have to start small, in my opinion, and maybe support an already existing project. So if, for example, you want to put your billboard, let's take the cheapest example, yeah, you can say, okay, that project has an impact, then I'm gonna participate, I'm gonna fund maybe that project, and in exchange I can be present with them. So if that message has an actual response, then you keep going, and ultimately then you build that experience. Regarding the hospitality, I'm from Rome, so I like all the experiences about Sistine Chapel, because I think the strength there is usually the Sistine Chapel is very busy, it's always full, it's almost impossible to be alone there. But in VR or in a metaverse space, you can. So that's a strong point. If you are talking about the younger generation, you still not enough. You really need to engage there, but it gets a little bit more complicated. But yes, I do see a lot of empty spaces. Yeah.
Is there already a VR version of the Sistine Chapel that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, there is one on Steam, but it's offline. So it's a PC version that is offline. Yeah, because I think there with the rights, it's not, it's complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, we got like 10 minutes to go. So last round of questions. Mark, let's take a look at these final quotes that we have here. There is one from Ellie that I really like. She's a French woman doing something very interesting in the hospitality and metaverse space. We had a long conversation the other day, and they said something that I really liked, and it's hotels are in the business of selling escapism. So it's a very poetic way of putting it to say that what we're trying to sell is like something that is completely different from your day-to-day life. You know, when you go to a hotel for leisure reasons, you just really want to be in another place, you know, just far away from home. You know, you heard all the cliches that we use in the hospitality communication and marketing. So do you think that to a certain extent the metaverse, because of the fact that it's so, especially like when we talk VR metaverse, it's so full of possible different scenarios and capabilities and can actually create something that does not exist in real life, it cannot exist in. Do you think that maybe hospitality is one of the fittest industries to use the metaverse for?
That's an interesting question. I think actually, you know, this escapism is only for a very tiny group of hotels. I think, you know, there's a lot of hotels who pride themselves to be the home away from home. So which is, you know, I guess the opposite of escapism. But I think, you know, from you know, obviously what hotels do is they offer you know, an experience, of course, and also that depends on which you know, level of hotels. You know, this of course applies predominantly to the 4 and 5 star hotels. And I guess if you are a 5-star hotel brand, you have the opportunity to offer a unique experience in the metaverse. But yeah, as we discussed earlier with the Nike Land, it doesn't come cheap. So you need to be able to spend a lot of money on creating that a truly you know, unique experience in the metaverse that allows people to escape without actually going on a travel. So it's from that perspective, I think there's a lot of opportunities for hotels, untapped potential. But I don't think I agree with you with that. You know, the hotel industry is uniquely positioned to achieve that. I think, you know, any brand has the opportunity to offer a unique experience in the metaverse, and you don't have to be a hotel brand to do so.
Okay, that makes total sense. Very, very good. Sergio, let's go like final round, and then we wrap it up. If you had to give one single piece of advice, this is a question I will ask all of you guys, okay? One single last piece of advice for hotels or even destinations that want to taste the waters of the metaverse, but they don't know exactly where to start. If they could do one thing now, what would it be?
Sorry. Yeah, I think the main thing is to reach out people who work in the industry, because the industry is very much evolving fast, and things that work today might not work tomorrow. So I think, yeah, reach out to experts and try to understand how to approach the metaverse.
So you're talking about metaverse experts, not hospitality experts, right?
No, exactly. Yeah, hospitality brands and business should really reach out and get experts' opinion on their case before approaching a solution.
That's an interesting one. You know, when I did the first event, this was last year with Hospitality Net. It was a lot of fun, but even though we had like amazing speakers, like all C-level, they were all coming from the hospitality space. And I think that the lack of different views on the topic was like the weak point of all the discussion. So I totally agree with you. And this is exactly the same suggestion I always give to my clients. So look, if you want to do something in the metaverse, you need to understand the metaverse first. This goes for Web3, NFTs, you know, whatever non-Web2 project that you wanna use. Sergio, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, I think, is number one platform. So if I'm creating experiences, words, and assets. So on this topic, I can definitely help anyone who needs.
Okay, very good. And I will give you a call because I do live in Rome. well now. So maybe we can go for a physical drink in real life some point.
Thanks.
Andy, so same question for you. What is your final thoughts and one suggestion for hotels or destination that want to start using the metaverse?
Mine's got two parts to it. The first part is, you know, you got to stay in your own hotel room to understand what the user experience is going to be like. You know, like when I'm testing code out or something like that, I put myself in the user's shoes. You know, we set up these tests and things like that. Do that, but in the metaverse. You know, like try it out, like as a consumer, and see the viability of that. Because even though we're talking about generation AI, you know, the people who are actually making these purchases at the end of the day will still need to cater to in some way, shape, or form. And if you do find something, this is the second part, keep it simple, right? Like go the Nintendo route. They always use older technology because it's proven and everybody, it's like accessible. You know what I mean? So yeah, those are the two pieces of advice. And you can get a hold of me on LinkedIn. You know, I have a pretty unique last name. It's K-E-H. Yeah, I'm the founder at Web3 Research. We're at the intersection of, Web3 and artificial intelligence. We're trying to make a layer of abstraction, leveraging artificial intelligence for users to engage with Web3. And thanks so much for hosting. This has been great.
Well, you've been great. And let me look. Not a lot of people know that, but I'm an avid toy collector from the 80s. You know, I collect toys from the 80s. So I do collect a lot of retro consoles as well. And you made the example of go the Nintendo route. And I would say don't go the Atari route. There is an amazing documentary that you can watch about the creation of possibly the worst game in history that is called E.T. And it just came out after the success of the movie, and they wanted to talk about with something fast without a real plan, and this is like the worst possible game ever created. So bad that they had so many unsold copies that they had to put them in the desert. And there's a whole like crazy story about this guy just going and digging into the desert to get all these consoles that are now worth a lot of money. But yeah, let's. My suggestion would be, if I can attain to that, is go the Nintendo route, don't go the Atari route. Matt, one final suggestion for the viewers, and what is the best way to get in touch with you?
I would say focus on the experience, and it can be something really as simple as just, for example, doing some conferences in the real world and in the metaverse in parallel, something like that, or even going to some more advanced, difficult, where you can partner with someone and maybe have a one-room design by, I don't know, some famous esports team or something, and have some collaboration with them. But to me, really, in the long run, think about the experience that the player can live only in the metaverse space, and definitely don't build another metaverse, because we have already 160 of them. I don't think we need another one. And okay, people can find me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way, I guess.
Very good. Thanks so much. Mark, first of all, thank you so much for being with us today. I really wanted you on board from episode 1, and very, very happy that you took the time to do that. Again, before I give you the last question, remember, step into the metaverse. You can see it on the frame in the room. One of the best books on the topic around. There is a link to the book on the comments on LinkedIn, and the new book, Future Visions, written with the help of ChatGPT. And at some point, this is a spoiler, guys, but at some point I would come up with an episode more focused on the use of AI and generative AI in the hospitality space. So Mark, if you're around, if you're in Europe again, that would be great to have you on board. So last question, Mark, for you as well. One last piece of advice, and what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And happy to come back at some point in the future when I'm in Europe, if that's because of the time zones. But other than that, yeah, one piece of advice is start experimenting. Don't wait too much longer to explore. Start exploring this fantastic opportunity. The metaverse. It is the next iteration of the internet. It's not something that's a fad. It's not something that's going away. It will define our lives in ways we cannot even imagine in the next 5 to 7 years. So if you, as a hotel brand, are too slow to adapt, I think you'll have you miss out on a lot of opportunities. So I would really say start exploring the metaverse, what it means for you as a hotel brand, how you can benefit from this new development, this next iteration of the internet, and start experimenting it and start building stuff for the metaverse to understand how it works. People can reach out to me via my website. That's the easiest way. It's thedigitalspeaker.com. You can send me an email there, or my WhatsApp number is there, or you can book a meeting with me directly. Happy to have a chat with anyone on this topic because it's super exciting and there's so many opportunities for everyone.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today, and thank you for your viewpoints. Always very interesting, and it's really what we need in the industry. We will be back again in 1 month with a whole new series of Polybius. In the meantime, you can go back on YouTube or LinkedIn and watch the first 4 episodes, or get in touch with everyone at Hospitality.net that will be able to give you more information. We got a glossary out with the 100 more used words in Web3 and Metaverse. Part 2 is coming, so stay tuned. And Jill, I think now it's official. I think I can say that the hotel yearbook was published today. Like a lot of material. I had the pleasure to give it a peek before the publication, but this will take me probably a couple of weeks to go over all the material. There is a piece under my name as well. It's a semi joke, and Mark, I know you will love that. But what I did, I can tell you this. Basically, what I did is I took articles from the 90s talking about the internet, right? And articles, anything from Time or New York Times, Associated Press, and so forth. And there was all this like crazy skepticism about the internet. And the only thing I did was to take these articles, do a Frankenstein of those, and just replace the word internet with metaverse. And you see that it's exactly the same narrative we have today. But when you look back from the ashes of the dot-com bubble, we had the e-commerce word that is worth now probably $5 trillion, something like that. So I think it's an interesting read. It's fun. And but on top of that, Hotel Yearbook, it's full of like 60 experts writing amazing pieces. Again, it will take me a couple of weeks to read all. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Let's meet up again in 1 month. And bye. Ciao, ciao.
Bye bye.